But to go back and suggest that within days or weeks of October the 7th, what Israel should have done to an enemy wedded to its destruction, who has repeatedly, since the attacks, and we're going to keep doing this, would not have attacked with great force, everyone would have done that. And if they wouldn't have done that, their people would have drummed them out of office.
Here's my problem with your argument is that you're presuming two things I think are false. One is that Israel is a normal country like other states, and two, that there's parity here. Israel is not a country living in peace with its neighbors, and the Palestinians just disrupted all that on October 7th. Israel was waging on October 6th one of the most brutal and longest running military occupations in the world, which it refused to end, which it had multiple opportunities to do. And contrary to the revisionism we've heard in this interview from people like Shabbos, that the Palestinians were offered this great peace deal and they turned it down. No, Israel's never risen to the level of offering Palestinians the absolute minimum, which is a contiguous state in the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, which, by the way, as I pointed out, Hamas has accepted. Hamas previously tried.
Arafat was offered it. Arafat was offered an unbelievably good deal. Historically, people will say that was the moment. Bill Clinton, I've interviewed Bill Clinton several times about this, and he's absolutely clear, as are the Israelis, that deal was on the table and Arafat walked away.
Listen, we can go into that record. There's a great new book by Robert Malley I have here. He worked for Bill Clinton. He was his negotiator. And he points out that what Bill Clinton said is just not true. Palestinians were never offered that. That's why Shlomo Ben-Ami, who was Ehud Barak's foreign minister, who you spoke to earlier, who was at Camp David when that so-called generous offer was made, Shlomo Ben-Ami said, if I were Palestinian, I would have rejected Camp David as well. Because contrary to all the spin, including from people like Bill Clinton, Palestinians were never offered a contiguous state in the West Bank and Gaza. They were offered a Bantustan state where they could live in little cantons surrounded by major Israeli settlement blocks that make Palestinian life impossible. And even Hamas, if you look at their charter, they revised their charter. I wish they'd been even more forthcoming than they were, but the fact is they were more accommodating on the issue of the two-state solution than any Israeli across the spectrum. And by the way, on the issue of Netanyahu, Ehud Barak said earlier that Israel's not Netanyahu. Okay, it's a nice message, but look at the polls. Most Israelis support ethnic cleansing in Gaza.